Okay, you're probably wondering why the hell am I on camera again? The only other time was way back when I did my kind of tour thing for 100 subscribers. And why am I holding the new camera I said I'd switch to instead of actually using it, and why I'm shooting with my old camcorder still? The reason for that is this is an older video. So the video you're about to see, aside from this opening part, is actually quite old. I shot it months and months and months ago. I never got around to actually editing it, probably because it's like 80 clips, and just dreading that. I've been putting it off for so long. In fact, I'm not even done editing it now. I still have like 30 or 40 clips to go through and splice together and whatnot. So yeah, taking a little bit of time. I will eventually finish it, hopefully today. So I wanted to shoot it with the same 60 frames per second as the old original video, as opposed to the newer video. So yeah, and I also have a Canon EOS M coming, which is their mirrorless, Canon's mirrorless camera. It's the first one, and it's pretty terrible, but it does have a touch screen, which surprisingly the $1,500 or whatever Canon 7D Mark II does not have, because Canon and Nikon both are under the impression that semi-professional cameras shouldn't have touch screens, yet they want you to do video on them. So the EOS M, when combined with hacked firmware from Magic Lantern, you can do all sorts of really nice video stuff with it. So I might end up using that for video. Same lenses, because there's an adapter. I picked up the EOS M with a lens for $200, so I hope to do that. And there's been a delay due to the gigantic snowstorm. In fact, I was stuck at work for 32 hours. That wasn't great, but yeah, so we seem to be recovering from that, and I hope to get that camera and start shooting new stuff. I've a million things to shoot. I mean, so many things. I have a closet full of stuff to do teardowns on, like 100 things. I won't have much of a vacation this year to actually stay home and edit. Usually I kind of catch up on a lot of shooting. Last year I shot tons of videos to get most of it done. This year I'm using 1 week to go to Paris, 1 week to go to Toronto with my wife, which will be nice. I haven't been to Paris in 10 years. Toronto, I haven't been in 4 years, and my whole family's there, so it'll be nice to see them. So I won't be filming 100 million videos then, but I do hope to get to editing. I still have probably 5 or 6 videos, I think, with the old camera. I do hope to actually not just do all of those and then the new ones. I hope to actually start filming stuff with the new stuff when I get the camera. So, occasionally you'll get an old video warning, so it's shot with the old camera. Texts. So, I hope to get all that kind of stuff done and start churning out videos again, because it's like once a month right now, because I've just been working so much. I have not forgotten. One little note is when the original video starts, the audio quality will go down, because I am using my lovely lapel mic for this, but I didn't have it when I shot the video originally, so it'll go back to the internal mic, so it may not sound as good, or it may sound better, because maybe just my voice is irritating and you don't want to hear it as clearly. So oh well. Oh, and I'll miss the swivel display on the camcorder. Not that I shoot many videos of me looking at the camera. It's really nice. I do have an LCD monitor, a little 7-inch one that I can hook on top to the hot shoe with HDMI. So, if I shoot more like this, I'll be able to use that. But it's kind of finicky. I've got to hook up a cable and power adapters and stuff. So, we'll see. Today, a rather large video on the Apple Duo system. So basically, in the 90s, Apple came out with their sub-notebook, the Duo. There are multiple models. They spanned all the way from very slow black and white systems to color, even a single PowerPC system, the 2300C. The idea of the system was that it had very limited ports on the back, and you would dock it to another system, or to a specified dock. There were 3. I only have 2, so we're going to only take a look at 2 out of the 3. And you would gain more ports and additional functions, and it was a very neat system, and it's, you know, something that is still around today. You still have docking systems for laptops that give them access to USB ports and video and all sorts of stuff. These were fairly advanced in that the large dock, the Duo dock, there's also a Duo Dock 2, which was a slightly modified model. It actually gives it slots and a floppy drive and Ethernet and better video and all sorts of stuff. So you can take your teeny tiny, relatively speaking, laptop and get a full suite of outputs and inputs on it, which is really cool. So the smallest one is the Duo floppy adapter, and basically, well, first off, this is what the dock connector looks like. It's this crazy high density connector, and the system works with these aligning pins and these metal latches that you can release with the button on this. And yeah, it just plugs into the back of the laptop. We'll take a look at that later. This gives you an ADB port for a keyboard or mouse, floppy drive connector, which we've got the floppy drive down there, and that's it. It also has a locking port, like a Kingston locking port, and that's it. So the large one is the one that gives you most of the functionality, and yeah, it was just the physical design of everything is very, very cool. I mean, like, even the battery holders are just really well thought out. They're this locking cover, and you can just pull out the battery, and you've got your battery here. I have one battery, one original battery, and one fake battery that I've got in the actual laptop. Now, I do want to say something about how this teardown is going to go. This teardown is going to be mostly destructive. The laptop is actually like a Franken Duo. It's like, you'll note it has a trackball. Now, the top of the line 2300C had a trackpad. Now, the trackpad was very terrible. So this is parts of a Duo 280C, I think, and a 2300C motherboard, and like bits and pieces, and the rubber is starting to disintegrate over the years. So, you know, it's not something I want to resell. I know there are a lot of 68K users out there and people with their old collections. I know, I have one, and it does pain me to kill off one of their members, but this one is just, yeah, it's I'm not going to go through selling it, because chances are it'll just get returned. The batteries don't work, they're dead. So, you know, I'm going to try and save the dock, try and save the floppy drive, and maybe the charger, depending on how destructive these teardowns are, because I do want to see inside them. I've never seen inside them, so I am willing to make the sacrifice of selling them on eBay by opening them up to see what's inside. So, you know, hopefully I can put them back together, because my concern is that they're all heat welded or ultrasonic welded around, so they won't open and close easily, but we'll see how it goes. The Duo dock itself, the big one, is just completely falling apart. The plastic is like degrading to the point where it just, like, this came off the back of it, and it just comes, like, no effort at all. This just falls apart. So, like, yeah, the plastic is just devolved, and yeah, it's no good. Everything in it's broken. In fact, in order to shoot this video, I had to rip it apart completely, open up the power supply, which, by the way, is the stupidest power supply in the world. One, it's riveted shut, which is just annoying. And two, the design of it, well, you'll see it later, but the design of it means it's very hard to pull the two pieces of metal apart, because you're basically always holding a part of the metal that you're trying to pull. in order to get grip on the other part. It's just stupid. Anyway, I had to open that up and replace a capacitor in it. It's a very, very common failure in the Duo docks where you power it up and it just makes a ticking sound, and it will just sit there going forever. Sometimes it does fix itself after about 2 hours if you leave it in, but you know, you can't unplug it after that, or else it'll go back to ticking, and eventually it gets to the point where it just stops tick. It always ticks and will never come out of it. This particular one was at that point. I tried to leave it for a couple hours to see if I could get it to come back to life just for the video, but unfortunately I couldn't do it. So I had to rip apart the power supply and replace 2 capacitors. It's C28 and C24 or 26, I can't remember. But they're 2 100 mic 25 volt electrolytics, and you can just swap them. I just replaced them with the cheapest ones I had just to get it working. And of course there's a plane or helicopter going by as usual. So that brought the power supply back to life so we can shoot the video. And well, let's start taking a look at each part. Like I said, this is kind of a Franken Mac made up of parts from various PowerBook Duos. At the front, we've got this little bay for your battery. This is a knockoff battery. High capacity power products. Yeah, so this is actually the entire. This is the entire Duo series, so you get an idea of how many models there were. The C versions had color, and the other, well, the 2300, I can't remember if it was only black, if it was only color or not. Anyway, 1800 milliamp hours, 12 volt, and yeah, it's a nickel metal hydride, not a lithium battery, so it's very heavy, not much capacity, and it has the potential for the memory effect, which the newer ones don't have. It's not as bad as NiCad though. So yeah, it just goes in and pushes in and locks, and it's kind of fiddly to take out sometimes. What I would do often is get a tool of some type, and you can actually jam right into the latch here. So that's how I usually take it. This battery is actually slightly different size. It may have bulged out because it's dead or something, but it's a slightly different size to the other one. So if you put it in the battery holder, it just jams up, and it takes forever to get it out. So yeah, we'll take a look at that later if we can get into it. If not, we won't. So we've got a little latch here, and this is the laptop. It's actually a very decent keyboard. The only problem with it for me is that the arrow keys are arranged in a stupid manner. Apple did this with a lot of their little keyboards. And they also put the enter key down here, which again is just stupid. And escape is over here. It's all just to make the thing really tiny, but it's still annoying. And we've got a little trackball here. No, it's not 2 buttons. It's 2 buttons in the sense that it's whatever one is more comfortable for you. See, some people go like this, some people go like this, so they made it easier for people to use, but it's still not 2 button like a Windows machine. A little trackball, and it's just an optical encoder mouse or trackpad, no fancy laser mice for us. And what else? We've got a little power switch here, microphone, speaker, and if we go up a little bit, brightness controls. There's also a power light at the top, and that's about it. All this rubber, like these little rubber stoppers, have all disintegrated, and you can see that the laptop has the keyboard actually sunk down, and this is all just to make it even thinner. Now, the thickness of this screen is because it's the color screen. You can tell the hinge is a little dying. So the black and white models were actually quite a bit thinner, and they were a lot cheaper. Keep in mind, like the price difference between a color one and a black and white was like $1,000. Crazy. Now you won't even now you don't even know that there were black and white laptops, but this was a huge price difference. And the cool thing is, like with a black and white one, if you're just using this for text and stuff, it didn't matter. And the really cool thing is, when you plug this into the dock, you get a color video interface, and you even get new bus slots, so you can put in a real video card at home. So you could save the money, get the cheaper black and white model, which was thinner, lighter, and it had a lot more battery life. I think you got like an extra hour or something. So that was a really common thing to do, is to just save the money and then put it into getting a dock. So flipping around, you can see the complete lack of ports on the back. Well, nearly complete lack of ports. We've got a power connector, which is like an RCA jack. These are little legs, and they work very, very well. Mine is missing one of them, but they fold up and give your keyboard a nice angle. Very, very nice. This is a spot for modem, which is not installed on this one, and there's a single serial port, and that's it, except for the dock connector. Oh, and there's another power switch at the back, by the way. And you can flip this little hideaway door and then plug in your dock, and then you get ports. Behold, one of the most beautiful power systems I've ever seen on a laptop. It's just so well thought out. I love this system, like just even the look of all the parts and just how they all work together. It's just brilliant. It really is. Like, you know, say what you want about Apple, once in a while they did come out with something really, really ingenious. So this is the power adapter. This particular one puts out 24 volts at 1.5 amps. And here, get a little closer. Of course, it's actually you know, approved, which is something that you have to worry about these days. But it comes with a little, oh, it's actually quite a long cable. We take all of that off, and you can see that it's got these little posts that pop out. Now this one's broken just because, like I said, all the plastic on this stuff's disintegrating. But the whole point of this is that they pop out and you get something to wrap onto. Now this is still used on a lot of products, and it's on modern Apple chargers as well, I believe, still. And it takes a standard IEC mains plug, and that is it, except for this weird side with strange pins on it, or pads. So the idea behind this thing was that you could also buy the Macintosh PowerBook Duo battery recharger. Now, I should say that this works like any other modern laptop. When it was plugged in, it would charge the battery when plugged into the laptop. But this would let you, this clips on, and then this lets you just plug in to power, and then you can charge batteries without the laptop. So you can have up to 2 batteries. I do not believe it charges them simultaneously. Let me, this thing doesn't stay together as well as it used to, but there. Now this one I don't, oh no, it does actually detect. See, it's changed to amber, and it's pulling 2 watts. So, yeah, this won't charge. The battery voltage, I think, is like 0 on both of these batteries, so I'm surprised it's even detecting it. Let me see if it does anything with this one, too. This one, I think, is really hard to get to fit in. Yeah, one doesn't even detect. Actually, it might just be because... No, it just doesn't detect. It's a brilliant system. Lets you charge batteries without the laptop. See, the fake battery just does not want to come out of anything you put it into. There we go. So it was a very, very well thought out system. Lets you charge up the batteries. It lets you keep the just small charger whenever you need it, relatively small charger whenever you just need to go around with the laptop. And I just love it. I just love the industrial design of this. I mean, yeah, it doesn't fit together too well anymore, but there was a time that it did. It's just, I really like it. This is like the kind of Apple stuff that I really liked, especially when I was younger, because this was made in 1996. And I was 13. Got the battery. This is the knockoff one. And I just peeled off the little plastic shell on it. Or, sorry, label. And we'll see. Hang on, let me switch tools. See if we can get a better look at the internals of this thing. You can already see maybe a thermal cutoff. And that looks like a fuse. But I'm sure there's at least something else in here. because I believe these are intelligent batteries in that they have a controller chip, and it will report back status to the microcontroller in the charger and in the, well, I believe there's a microcontroller in the charger and in the system itself. Very tough plastic. Oh, making progress. Trying not to snip through a battery and cause a fire. Okay, I see a big cluster of wires now. Made in Japan batteries. Fancy. Yep, there are 2, 3, 6, 9, 10 cells in it. And what is this thing? Yeah, it looks like a thermal sensor, thermal cutoff. Oh, and I see the little control board in there. Let's dig a little deeper. Never find that piece of plastic. Alright. Getting close. Well, come on. Alright, there we go. You can see they put in a little bit of tape in here to separate the little microcontroller so it doesn't short out anything. And yeah, it's a little PIC 16, couple caps, couple resistors, diode, nothing too special on it. And yeah, it's wired into the board, or into the batteries, and there's a diode done by Spot Welding number 5. And don't worry, because Team A was on top of this. Let's see if we can get into the official Apple one. I assume it's constructed in a similar way. Get rid of that. See what's under this thing. Out of curiosity. Nothing! No idea why that's there. Your guess is as good as mine. And it looks like this won't work the same way. Doesn't appear to have openings. It's possible that the batteries in the knockoff one are so big that they need a thicker case and they need the cutouts, which would explain why this the knockoff battery gets stuck in everything I put it in. Yeah, it doesn't look like this is gonna wanna. Oh wait, hang on. There's a weak spot where the switch is. Let me slide the switch down to act as a little bit of a guard. Okay. Making a little bit of progress. Now with that open, can I start snipping? Just out of curiosity, I wonder what the voltages on these are before I get too far into them that I can't read the voltages. Oh, 6.4 volts, normally 12. And this one, the original, or the Apple one, 12 volts. That would be why it was charging earlier. I don't think, I mean, even though the voltage is high enough, like it's at 12 volts, it doesn't actually hold a charge. Like I have let it recharge for a while, and it eventually does go green and say it's charged, but the battery runs for like 5 seconds and says low battery. So yeah, pretty dead. But let's continue on into this guy. I did nick the battery ever so slightly, but didn't actually pierce it, just pierced the plastic. But you can see there's corrosion where the spot welds were on these. Oh, and they're glued in. I can tell because they're not releasing too easily from this. See what we can do along the top. Uh-oh. And I guess that's one of the connections to the connector. And I'm fairly certain these are glued in at the bottom, or at least with like some kind of sticky tape. Let me get something non-metallic. See if I can move something around. No, they're not really, not attached. Now, at least snip these off so we can snip off the little spot welds. And this one's connected directly to the output connector. And well, we've got a weird assortment of stuff. There's no microcontroller. Well, here's the secret of the Apple one. This is just connected over two of the pins, and this is a Dallas DS2400 digital serial number. And basically it's a unique 48-bit serial number that, yeah, it's just a unique code. Sorry, my cat's jumping around in the background as usual. And yeah, this just outputs a signal or a code to the PowerBook, and it tells it, oh, this is the serial number, I'm a legit battery. Whereas with the fake battery, they're probably stuck using this PIC to simulate it. It's probably emulating it in some way. And in addition to that, there's probably some differences with the batteries because these are higher capacity. Perhaps they need a different charging rate or something, and this is sending back false information or something to the PowerBook to force it to charge longer or something. Not sure, but the Apple battery is definitely a simpler design without a microcontroller, and it just seems to be arranged a lot nicer. But again, because the knockoff one is loaded with higher capacity batteries, it doesn't, you know, you're kind of stuck jamming them in. Onto the floppy drive adapter. Now, what I had to do is go along the edge on this. First I checked for screws. One thing you can do when you're looking for how to get into something, you can just start lightly poking and with a knife or a small screwdriver. And this generally won't mark up the plastic too much, but what it will do is it will let you know if there's a little dimple for a screw. But it turns out there aren't any, and the way you get into it is, well, I just ran a knife around just cracking slowly along, and that separates the two halves. The top half with the mechanism to raise the little grabber arms. Okay. Not too interesting. It's just got a little springed piece of metal here to keep it resetting, and there's a little metal plate here for the lock, so it actually does grip onto something. And we've got a shielded board in here. See if I can peel all of this away. I'd like to keep this thing intact and just super glue it shut, but sacrifices may have to be made. Okay, so the shield just pops off. We got some Torx bits. Hang on, I gotta get my screwdriver. With 2 Torx screws removed, we can see the board, and there's just a big inductor, a little inductor pack for the ADB port, a custom chip by Apple, made by VLSI, who makes almost all of their custom chips. And it just says, made in the USA, Apple Computer, 1992. And there's just like a resistor pack on the bottom, made by Dale. Top quality. Barcode, and you can see just how many pins are on this stupid connector. 152. So, one note while we're on the subject of the floppy drive adapter. This thing is the connector. This is an HDI 20, I believe. That Apple, I don't know if this this is unique to Apple, if they developed it, but it's basically only used by Apple, at least in computing. So this is a high density connector that locks in for the floppy drive. And what's cool about this is it's really sturdy. I mean, the downside is it's very big, but it's really sturdy and it's self-locking, and you can see that the shell moves. That's how you unlock it. So when you just pull on it normally, it unlocks. This is the little locking tab. So it's a very, very, very clever design. Like, see, simple pull. Most people wouldn't even realize that it locks, just because that's how you take a wire out. And the cool thing about this is that Apple used this on a lot of different connectors, this design. I don't know if they had a patent on it or what, but even the networking cables and a lot of other stuff had this kind of slide locking connector for the DIN style connectors and for these HDI connectors. Very nice. I'm going to try and put this baby back together. Oh, and yeah, the bottom just has some more shielding and some paper tape on the bottom to keep everything from shorting out. So onto the floppy drive. Now I already took out part of this, so this won't lock in properly, but to give you an idea of just, again, how good the industrial design on this thing is, we've got this little cover which flips down, and it's a little stand for your floppy drive. Isn't it cute? And I think I actually have a floppy disk. So that gives you an idea of how it works. Very complicated. I know many of you have not seen what one of these is. This holds a whole 1.4 megabytes. Anyway, yeah, so I figured out how to get into this thing. The way you do is pop this off, and then there's 2 of these little retaining things here, and I set them to the side because they were falling out. And this whole case is just held together by this little nub of plastic here, and it slides forward. So you just move it forward and pop it off, and the top is nicely shielded. And inside we have what appears to be just a standard Apple floppy drive connector. Yeah, this looks like a standard Apple floppy drive. They use these little ribbon cables. And yeah, these are different to a PC floppy drive in the sense that they have an auto eject mechanism. That's what this extra motor is grafted onto the floppy drive. These are made by Sony. I believe most of Apple's were made by Sony. And yeah, standard kind of Apple floppy drive with the little, I think they're 20-pin ribbon flexes. And we got a little controller board. Nope, not even a controller board. It is literally just a pass through to the HDI cable. So it doesn't even use a special interface or anything. They seriously, it's just a physical adapter and a case to connect it to the back of the floppy drive controller. I believe these were used on more than just the Duos. The HDI 20 connector, I believe, was on the PowerBook 100 as well for its floppy drive, because it didn't actually contain a floppy drive, I don't think. I do have one in the closet. Maybe I'll check it one day, but until then, I'm fairly certain it was used on other devices. I discovered that the little plastic rings that I took out when I removed the floppy drive cover, they're actually what keep the drive from sliding forward. They're kind of a locking mechanism for the whole unit. So that kind of explains that. I was wondering why it was so easy to pop off. Battery charger was a bit easier to get into. It just had the hidden screws, and top comes off. And holy crap, is there a lot of circuitry in this thing. It's just a battery charger. What the hell is this giant chip doing? Oh my god. Well, let's get to the top stuff first. We've got little... Oh, okay, sorry. I was wondering what these pieces of metal were, but they're actually just the little retention springs. And we've got little light pipes for the LEDs. There's 2 of them. And the hardware for the eject thing, which is just a little spring on a piece of plastic. Nothing too interesting. It's revision A. Okay. In here, we've got a nice piece of shielding, some plastic to keep everything from shorting out on the shielding, and another piece of the case with revision A marked on it as well. So I've been looking at this board a bit more, and while I can only assume this is some kind of big microcontroller processor, because this thing is gigantic. And it's labeled Apple, but it's also labeled Motorola SC82919FT, and I cannot find any information on it. And there's a couple ROM chips here. I'm going to try pulling this one off because I think it's supported by my Mini Pro. This one I don't think is a Toshiba one, but I'll try reading that one. I doubt there's anything of interest on it. There's some power supply stuff, some nice Nichicon electrolytic capacitors, and you got the bi-color LEDs, and nice big filter, and you can see the pins are arranged in a way that what is most likely the ground and power pins contact first. This is very common with any interface that's hot swappable. They put the power, well, usually the ground pins first. Serial ATA is like that. If you look at a serial ATA connector, you'll see that some of the pins are longer than others, so they can establish contact in the right order. And these are the contacts for the battery, and it's actually a very interesting method of attaching these. Now you can see it's just a springed piece of metal, and it's shaped in a way that it's got these little contacts, like rigid contacts. Now the way they're doing this is they've shaped the metal in a way that it has this little divot in it, and that divot fits right into the hole in the PCB. So when they flow the solder, it fills in all around it and makes a really solid connection, as opposed to just having it go straight down. If it went straight down, it wouldn't be quite as strong because it would wobble back and forth. This lets it fill in completely and gives it a bit of springiness. You get a lot of strain relief with all this solder down here, and even if it starts to crack, it still has to get through right here. So I think it's actually a fairly good way of doing it, and I think probably what the main reason for doing it this way is that they hold in place a lot better. I think they can they probably spring into the actual socket, so they put the pick and place machine, or a person probably has a little tool that pushes down in the center like this, so it kind of squeezes it in, because I imagine these are actually probably a tight fit, and you can see how they actually do come through the bottom. Yeah, definitely the most complicated charger I've ever seen. Tons of MOSFETs for controlling the power to everything. Just absurd. I wonder how much this thing cost new. I can't remember. Took a lot of prying, but I did manage to break the seal on this. The power adapter is just held in with a lot of glue. So much so that it was like breaking the other side of the case while I'm prying it apart. So the little flip out cable organizer things just have a little piece of metal there to give them the little snap action. And plastic case, and we've got a board in here with no screws. How's this? Is it glued in? Let me apply some force. Well, it feels like there's a screw. I just don't see one, unless it's being held in by the heatsink plate somehow. Oh wait, hang on. What is... Might just have to pry it open. There we go. Okay. Case and a soldered on bit of shielding. Let's see if I can just cheat and snip through this. Huh, that's interesting. They're using, I don't know if we'll be able to see this, but oh, are they using it on this side too? No, it's only on that one side. They, oh, here we go. They use a little 0.1 inch header. See the little spacer? That's what they were connecting the shielding with. There we go. Probably destroyed my already beat up snippers, but that's okay. On the bottom, we've just got some passives. These are little contacts that link up with the charger unit, and this is the power going out. We got mains coming in, going through some filtering. Looks like a common mode choke. Nice ceramic capacitor, or sorry, ceramic fuse. Pretty small bridge rectifier, although it is fairly beefy for the size of the unit. 400 volt, 100 mic cap from Nichicon. And just a little bit more filtering, switch mode controller, transformer. Don't know what that is. Looks like it's a, I think it's a voltage regulator. Probably providing like a 5-volt circuit for the charger. And another cap hidden under this little shroud. Sticking through there. How is this thing attached? Is it just friction fit? Or what? Oh, it's actually, oh, that's interesting. It goes underneath the capacitor is actually installed with it, and it goes through the leads of the capacitor. Yeah, not too, I mean, it's a well-built power supply. You can see the very, very nice separation from the high side and the low side. Even has a little arrow thing. Yeah, well made. There's even a nice cutout for the common mode choke. Decent power supply. I mean, it's got like a little pissant heatsink on it, but if I recall, this doesn't get too hot. So they obviously did their research. A little bit of thermal transfer material, and that's probably just a MOSFET or something. Oh well, not bad. Nice power supply. Much nicer than the cheap ass knockoff power supplies, that's for sure.